This is it, the final banner before the 1-year anniversary for War of the Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and these cards are kind of tempting. So I'm going to go over both of them and all the information you need to know so that you can decide if you're going to pull or not. And I know it's crazy, you've been so good, you've worked so hard to get to this point. There can't possibly be anything that would tempt you, could there? Thank you to warofthevisionscalc.com for the information used in this video. Now the first card we're going to look at is Swordsman's Refinement, and you can see Seymour and Sir O enjoying a nice drink outside, something I wish I could do during this COVID time, but that's not the point. You can see that they've got at least like 7 or 8 bottles there that they've already drank. That's pretty impressive, and if drinking alcohol makes you a good swordsman, then hand me the Buster Sword because I'm going to the North Crater. But this card, so when I make these videos, I don't always have the translation of what the card is going to be called, so sometimes I have to make an assumption, and I put a little placeholder name in underneath the card. So for this card it was Samurai Drinking Pal, so we'll leave that up there. So the card is an attack oriented card. You get a bit of luck, which is great for Samurai, you know, have that evade factor as well. The bestowed ability is really nice for this card. It's magic resistance 15% at max, and I think that this, we already don't even know what the party ability is. This is already an interesting card that a lot of people would want to get their hands on, because magic resist in a bestowed slot, paired with Fenrir, you could go up to 35 magic resist. All of a sudden your tank or whatever unit that is weak to magic is not so weak to magic, and that's kind of nice. Now if you use Seymour or O, they're also going to get 50% attack and then 20 defense penetration, which is absolutely insane. For equipping this card, they get an Ifrit level of attack boost, and they're going to get the 20 defense penetration that so many characters get on their mastery abilities. This is a really strong bestowed ability. We saw the same thing with Durando's card. It was also a very strong ability. So I think, especially since these cards, these units get EX drops as well, this is a very, very interesting VC for an MR. Now the party ability is slash attack 20. That's obviously very good for both of these units. It does clash with other slash attack cards, and that's something to consider. The possible level 99 buff for it for elemental would be the lightning units increase critical damage 18%. So that's fine. Like, that's not bad. It's not, you know, something crazy like increase a resistance or something, or increase your slash attack further or whatever. So that's kind of neat. Okay, so if we look at the comparisons for this, well, first of all, Echoing Scream, that's something that you have to consider, that if you use that card a lot, then this will clash, and this Echoing Scream gives you a lot more slash attack. And then things like Agaion, that also gives you some slash attack, gives you more slash attack, and it is a lightning card as well in terms of that elemental future buff. So those will definitely clash with this card, but another thing to consider is that there's just so many good MR cards as well. Like Secret Orders has slash attack up, the Path to Revenge is a solid card with slash attack up. There's no shortage of cards that are going to clash with this party ability, so that's definitely, if you're using any of those cards, you have to take that into consideration. The next VC that we're going to look at is Clairvoyant Astrologer, but I of course had to come up with a placeholder name, so I gave it the name Whoa, That's Ramada. It's pretty beautiful card, honestly, one of the best artworks I've seen. I wouldn't even have guessed that was Ramada without her helmet being in the top left there. And this card obviously is going to have something to do with spear users and Ramada. So you can see it's also an attack oriented card, but it gives you 4 spirit, which is really nice to have, like that little bit of spirit, just because it all adds up. The bestowed ability is specific to spear wielding main jobs, so any job at all that uses a spear will be able to use this card's effect, and it gives you 5 attack resistance, so that's your single target attack resistance. If something has an AoE spread, it's not going to reduce the damage by 5%, but if it has a single target, then yes, it will. This is a nice little padded effect, although it's not crazy in terms of how much resistance you could stack. The last card card we just looked at was magic resistance 15. So, you know, this is obviously a drop off from that, although it's more general in its usage. And then it has a vision ability, and this vision ability takes on the element of the user and has the nice little stacked AoE going away from the user. And it has a defense break, so it's not very strong, but it has a 25 defense break, and that's going to be super important for a lot of different people. One unit that it really jumps out to me for is Victoria, because often she has all jumps, and if you want to use an instant skill, well, you're going to have to use like your thief sub or something like that, or your soldier sub. But if you really want to take advantage with Victoria, you want her to use pierce attacks. She gets a bunch of pierce attack from her master ability, so being able to have an instant pierce attack that also defense breaks, that's pretty awesome. So this skill looks very strong. And you notice that it only has a 10 defense break at first. When you level up the VC, it levels up the VC ability, so you have to max this to get the full 25 defense break on it. And then the party ability is increase attack, and it's going to be a 35% increase at max, as well as a 35 increase of acquired AP up at max. Moving on to the possible level 99 elemental buff, it's going to get magic resist 20% for water ally, and that's pretty huge. So a lot of you are thinking, well, I have Winter Vic and I'm going to go for Tidus, and I have all these other water units. That's a really strong ability. So this is definitely gonna, you know, sway some people. The problem is that we don't know if we're gonna get these buffs, if they're gonna be the same, or if they're gonna be rebalanced for global. So it's kind of a risk if you want to build it straight for this unknown part of the card. And now this wouldn't be a global War of the Visions video without a global upgrade. So Ramada is gonna get defense piercing up and pierce attack up for this card, and that's obviously gonna be really nice for her. She already has pierce attack up as well, innately, so Ramada could do more damage with this. She's still going to have some problems with having lower stats all around as an MR, but when she gets her EX job, then that could be really interesting. And this alone, this global upgrade, makes me want to pull for the card because I love Ramada. I want to build her EX job, but I am going to wait and try to get it later. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this acquired AP up, because this is kind of an interesting ability. It's very powerful when you're using it purposefully. Like if you don't have an idea of why you're using it, then it's kind of risky. It's easier to use because it's paired with a very nice attack buff, but overall, like, it's something that, you know, you can't just assume is going to make a difference for you. So if you're going to use this card, you're obviously going to be using a spear wielder. Now, I'm going to take this from my perspective as a Victoria user. Now, Victoria has the glaring weakness of AP generation, and for her to be used effectively, she often has to have Ziza's bells. So this sounds like it would be a really nice way to give more AP to Victoria. Now, unfortunately, one of the reasons why Victoria has bad AP generation is that her skills suck. So if we look at Dragonskin, that's 7 AP when you use it, and it's only going to be 9 AP with the 35% AP up. Shadowcast on the Thief sub is 10 AP when you use it, and then 13 AP from this buff. And then if we go, let's look at Glaciella. Well, she can use War Maiden's Acuity, and that's going to give you 18 AP instead of 14. Now that's getting a little bit better value. And then finally, well, Ramada is someone that you might use with this card, and if she uses Magic Barrier, so she can take some magic hits, well, she's actually going to get 27 AP instead of 20. So I think that it will add up for some units. It's not going to fix Victoria. I think that it's ultimately, though, not something we have to worry about too much because it comes with that really nice attack boost as well. Finally, let's do some comparisons. So the first is Ifrit. Now I have Ifrit maxed, and that makes me think, well, they're going to clash, but at the same time, it's really hard to use Ifrit. I definitely use it with fire units because of the fire attack up. I think if you're getting 35 attack and you're fitting it in with other abilities, then that's really nice. It doesn't actually clash that much. And then Dwayne, his VC, it's pretty specific right now in that a lot of people are getting it for the first time or finishing their copies. And this also gives that 35% attack. So if you are using this and then a spear user, those are going to clash. It's something that you have to consider. And then I don't know if anybody, you know, tell me right now, if any of you have built the Fleeting Blossom Banquet, then I want to know. I want to know if you use it, if you've seen some really huge gains from it. I'm very curious. It seems really difficult to sacrifice a slot for this card, although this card has bestowed light resist up, and I'm very curious to see if that would be something cool to use against mono light teams that we'll be seeing soon. So if we talk about should you pull for WoW, that's Ramada. The pros, it has a really good vision ability. I really do believe that. The bestowed single target resist is also powerful. You stack it with Odin, and suddenly, like, you know, every little bit adds up. It's just a good bestowed to have, even though it's kind of a small buff. The attack up is also welcome. I feel like sometimes you're so focused on defense or other things that your VCs are doing, you miss out on those attack buffs. So I definitely like to see that. And then Spirit Stat, of course, is always good as well. Now, the cons, it's a very specific card. This is the only people that get benefits from the bestowed and the ability are Spear users. And then otherwise, like, you're not going to pull this card for the party ability. It's not like some cards where you're like, oh, this can be my accuracy card. You could pull this to be your attack up card if you don't have Ifrit, you don't have Dwayne's card, you don't have the card that we got for the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles collab that gives you a bunch of attack. But I don't think that if you're in that boat, then you probably shouldn't be pulling for this. And then otherwise, the party ability clashes and the acquired AP up. It's not strong enough in my opinion. But again, this is a card you're pulling it for bestowed uses, not for the party ability. The party ability is kind of like the bonus on top of that. And then for Samurai Drinking Pals, well, magic resist on bestowed is insane. Like, it's so good. The slash attack up is very useful, although that's a con as well because it clashes. And then it's just a must pull for O and Seymour fans. Like I said, it's going to clash with your slash attack cards, and it does actually have a lower attack stat. That's going to be just fine on these two guys because they're going to get that huge 50% attack buff. But for anybody else that has this, they are going to lose some attack to gain that magic resist, and that's kind of something you have to think about. And it's actually something I thought about a lot the other day because I was doing some mock battling in guild battle, and I decided to turn off Dwayne's Viking attack 40% buff, and then he would use his maxed TMR magic resist that he gets that single target and magic resist, and that's great. Now he is surviving against Garvel and all these other units. But I actually realized through the testing that he was one-shotting units like Halloween Little Leela when he was using his Viking buff. And when he wasn't using his Viking buff, he was leaving them with about 200 HP, 300 HP, and they were surviving. They were healing up, and then the fight was actually much longer. So that attack, you can't underrate something like losing a bunch of attack from going from a UR vision card to an MR vision card. And it's something you might not notice unless you do some very specific testing, but every little bit you strip for a different use will eventually catch up with your unit just not being as strong as other units that you see out there that are one-shotting people. And you know, what a cool thing to think about because this game is so deep, and I just enjoyed that so much. All right, to summarize, I'm just going to give a big no to both of these cards. Now for the Sir O and the Seymour card, that is pending. You know, unless you have those two units, you love those two units, you want to buff them, I think this is a really cool card that you could go for. But for both of these cards, before the anniversary to be spending Vizier on this, I don't think that's really something that you want to be doing. And I think if you have a Pierce comp and it's not successful and you think that this card is going to turn it around, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I just don't see that, like, why this timing would be so vital for everybody to get it and max it right now. Like, of course, that's the best way to do it. You have your whimsy shops, you have your bingo board. If you want it, it's there, it's yours. But I think you should just wait. And I'll give you an example. Now, I know I spent some money on this game, but with Black Rose Helena, I did not pull for it. I ended up getting it on one of the free pulls. Lucky me. And then they had the 200 winter coin bundle. I ended up buying that. I ended up getting some from the like, you know, vision card pulls that we did, the shards, and then wouldn't you know it, I have a max Black Rose Helena. Now that's a very specific example. I'm a very lucky person, but that bundle came up, I bought it, I was able to max the card even though it wasn't featured anymore, and that just shows you that, you know, like when you're ready to go for these vision cards, if you're a spender, then yes, that will be an accessible route to you. You'll be able to work on the cards that you want to work on, and even select them with tickets if you need to. And if you're free to play, you will get this card eventually. It's going to be harder to work on. I know that kind of sucks, but I don't think it's a game-breaking card that's going to be, you know, taking your Pierce team to the next level necessarily. But if you disagree with me, then you have to let me know in the comments below. And remember, you always need to make your own assessment and then your own decision. Thank you, Elda, for sharing that wisdom with us. All right, I'll see you all next time.